Welcome everybody to the Gaming Advisory Committee for 2023. This is the first of what typically ends up being about 3 meetings where we get together and review grant applications that have been submitted requesting funding from what is the city statute of the Gaming Advisory Committee, which is essentially 4% funding that's based on a lot of different factors of net income for the city. So this year, we have approximately $500,000 that we are going to be able to potentially grant out to organizations. I want to let everybody know that all the organizations that apply are not-for-profit, and the way we move forward with this process is by reviewing applications, which you will hear us talk about today. We will get through a certain number of them for our first meeting. However, we will not make a motion to approve any of the dollar amounts until the final meeting. So today will be more discussion purposes. We did have a work study session before this, so we talked through some of the applications, and sometimes there's more information that's needed for some, and then a lot of times we have organizations that have applied in the past that have a proven history of success that make it a lot easier to approve going forward. My name is Phil Talon. If I didn't say that, I am the chair of this committee based on the statute because I am currently the chief of staff. We also have mayor's appointments to the committee, which is Marty Wilgus, Andrea Edwards, Lori Zolno, Darlene Flores, and Sharon Zaney. And then we have 5 council appointments, which is Councilwoman Alexander, Councilwoman Venez, Councilman Rakos, Melissa Farrell, and Garrick Alexander. Do we want to do a roll call for who is actually present? Yes. So let's go ahead and do that.
Alexander G. Alexander K.
Present.
Zolno.
Present.
Edwards.
Present.
Farrell.
Present.
Flores. Rakos.
Here.
Zaney.
Here.
Venez.
Here.
Wilgos.
Here.
Talon.
Here. All right, we have 9 present and 2 absent. Do I have to hit that, Council President? Is that how it works?
Good job.
Thank you. Okay, I learned from watching you. For those at home that haven't seen this process in the past, we will review applications and we will determine a dollar amount for organizations today. However, this year we had an application request in the amount of $1,229,617.05. So being that we have approximately $500,000 that we're going to be able to grant, that means that approximately $729,000 plus will have to be cut from the application amounts that we receive. So even though today we might approve a certain amount in general for an organization, by the end of the 3rd meeting, that amount could actually get cut or potentially added to. And I want to make that clear to everybody at home, so if you hear us approve an amount today, it does not mean it's final. It won't be finalized until the motion is made at the final meeting. We have 2 other meetings that are scheduled besides this one. Sue, do you have the dates for those meetings? Put the pressure on you. So the second meeting will be on March 23rd, and the last meeting will be March 30th. Thank you, Sharon. So with that, we will begin to start reviewing applications. Most of the applications, I think, are in alphabetical order, although there might be a few that are off. So do we have any questions from our committee members? Any comments? All right, let's get started. So the first application is from the American Legion, Hammond Victory Post number 168. Total requested amount this year is $6,500. Approved in 2022, they did receive a grant of $10,000. The purpose of funding for this particular request is to repair the facility at 6849 Columbia Avenue. I believe there's a wall replacement that needs to happen and tuck pointing, and that is majority of the money that is requested. Do we have any recommendations?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Rakos.
Chairman, right?
I think so. I'll accept that.
I think we should approve the 6,500 as at this point.
Second.
So we have a recommendation of 6,500. Any other discussion, or
Second.
I agree.
I agree.
everybody's in agreement? Okay, very good. We'll mark 6,500 down for now, and we'll move on to the next application. Next, we have the American Veterans Collection. Last year, they had an approved amount of $9,000. This year, they are requesting $15,000. The purpose of the funding is majority of this grant will be used for their Thanksgiving / Christmas programs. They served 42 families last year, and they give costs of each family. And they would also like to market this program more, since it's a program for veterans, so they want to make sure they get it out there to folks. I do want to mention to people at home that we primarily look to fund folks in Hammond and organizations in Hammond, because this is Hammond taxpayer dollars. So I want to make that clear. Doesn't mean we don't appreciate work that's being done outside of Hammond at all. We absolutely know that veterans everywhere need assistance. But for this particular committee, we do focus primarily on Hammond. So with that and the request of $15,000, do we have any recommendations?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to suggest $3,000 for this year, as they've identified that they serve approximately 20% for our city.
So we have a recommendation of $3,000, which is, I believe, 20% of their grant request, and they do list in their application that they serve approximately 20% of Hammond residents. Do we have any other thoughts?
I would agree, Mr.
Agree.
President.
I'm in agreement.
There's an agreement. Okay, very good. We'll mark down $3,000 for the American Veterans Collection, Inc. Thank you. Next, we have Anthem Church. They did not apply last year. This year, they are making a total requested amount of $35,000. The purpose of their funding would be divided up, according to their application, into individual ministries. They talk about foster care programs, displaced individual programs, local schools, community garden, senior programs, and it lists other miscellaneous ministries as well, such as people that are, I believe, are coming out of prison, evangelism, partnership with other organizations. So with that, do we have a recommendation?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to recommend at this time, we give them $5,000, which they say each ministry is $5,000, and they could choose what ministry they want to put that towards, with an asterisk that we can come back later if we have more funds available.
So we have a recommendation to support one of their ministries, and I should have mentioned in the application, it states that each ministry is approximately $5,000. So this would support one of their ministries. Do we have any other comments on that?
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, very good. We will mark it for $5,000, and as we've done in the past, sometimes we'll put an asterisk next to an organization so that if there is additional funding at the end of the process, we'll take a harder look at this amount that they requested. So thank you. Next, we have the Arts Hammond Association, otherwise known as AHA. Arts Hammond Association did not make a request last year. I believe, I know they are a newly formed organization. Their total requested amount this year is $25,000. I serve on the board, so for the people at home, several of us serve on some of the boards that have requested funding. When that is the case, we provide information to the group if they have questions. However, if we serve on the board, we will not make any recommendations on dollar amounts, and we will not vote on that particular organization. In this case, we will not make any recommendations and approvals of recommendations. AHA is, the purpose of their funding is on June 23rd, 24th, and 25th in Hammond. They are going to have a, what they're calling a Merge Walls event, in which they're bringing out 12 or more nationally known artists to downtown Hammond, and they're going to paint the walls of a building in downtown. It's the Merge Building. There's actually been one graphic already done on the building that you could see, and this is 5920 Holman Avenue, if you'd like to take a look at that. And they're going to make an event of this in which, once the artists are completed with the building, it will remain there and hopefully become a tourist attraction and also draw interest for more arts projects in downtown Hammond. So with that, do we have a recommendation?
Mr. President,
Yes.
yes, I recommend $10,000 with an asterisk to go back and perhaps see if there's any funding at the end of our session. This is a great opportunity to support all the renovations that are going on in downtown Hammond.
We have a recommendation for 10,000. Are there any other thoughts or recommendations?
Agree.
I would agree. And
agree.
Mr. President, if I can add, one of the artists, we are very familiar doing renderings across buildings across the city of Hammond, so we're looking forward to see what he does on Holman Avenue. One of the buildings close to Holman Avenue on Soul Avenue, he just finished, and that's with the emergency personnel that he did on each side of the building, fire, police, and teachers and medical help.
It's a great point. Yeah, two of the artists that are part of this organization are Felix Maldonado and Ish. Both are pretty, you could say, nationally well-known at this point. And yeah, they've done several projects for sanitary, which has been amazing for the city of Hammond. So, okay, with that, we will put 10,000 on right now, and we'll put an asterisk to take a look at the end. And I think if for people at home that are watching, you're going to see this as a continuous theme of typically what's requested. It's hard to give the full amount, especially when we know we have to cut about $730,000 by the end of this process. So just want to remind people at home that. Next organization is the Association for the Wolf Lake Initiative. They were approved last year for their $600 request, and this year they're making another $600 request. This is one that the purpose of the funding is to co-sponsor the Wolf Lake Watershed Advisory Committee meeting on Friday, November 3rd, 2023. And I don't think we have to go too deep into the woods on
It's
this.
a no-brainer, Mr. President.
So the recommendation is to, I believe, a full request of $600.
Yes.
Is that fair,
Yes.
everybody? Okay.
Agree.
In agreement.
All right, we'll mark that down. Okay, next we have Bishop Knoll Institute. They received a grant of $10,000 in 2022. This year they're requesting, their application request is $50,000. The purpose of the funding is what they're calling the Warrior Wellness Center, which is a place for their students to do many different activities. I don't have the sheet right in front of me, but we did discuss this in the work study session. Do we have a recommendation from the group?
Mr. President, I'll make a recommendation that we start out at 5,000.
We have a recommendation of $5,000 for the Bishop Knoll Warrior Wellness Center. Any other thoughts?
I'm in agreement.
Agree.
I'm in agreement.
No problem.
Okay, we will mark them down for $5,000. Thank you. Next, we have books, brushes, and bands. Last year, we did a approved amount of $20,000 for them. This year, they submitted an application requesting $25,000. Books, brushes, and bands are pretty well known by anybody who's in Hammond. Michelle Golden has been working on this program for many years. She gives a breakdown, a very specific, thorough breakdown of what all the money is used for. Obviously, it's different programs for kids, obviously in conjunction with music. And so With that, do we have a recommendation from our committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I make a recommendation of 20,000 with an asterisk to possibly go back by the end for books, brushes, and bands for education. They are an amazing group, and I think they've proven that they've done everything they need to do for the students that are participating.
I should have mentioned as well that I believe Melissa Farrell is on the board, so she'll abstain from any vote on this particular group. And when we have some sort of affiliation with the organization, we will make that public to everybody. So, okay, we have a recommendation for 20,000. Any other discussion?
I would agree, Mr. President.
Agreement.
I would agree.
All right, very good. $20,000 for great organization. Okay, next. I guess I gotta be careful saying that because there's a lot of great organizations, right? I gotta better be careful. All right, next we have the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Northwest Indiana. Last year, they received $9,932, and this year they made a request for $9,700. I think everybody's pretty familiar with the Boys and Girls Club at this point. They do talk about the purpose of their funding is for some renovation that needs to happen at their Hammond facility, which is why they have a breakdown of cost for what the renovation would cost. With that, do we have a recommendation from our group? Yes. We have a recommendation for $9,700, which is their application request. Is there any other?
I would agree, Mr. President.
Agree.
Agreement.
Okay, very good. We'll mark 9,700 for the Boys and Girls Club. Next, we have our application for Cash Charity Company. Last year, they did not receive an amount from us. This year, they are requesting $8,000. In their purpose of funding, it states that the way their board works, they have the ability to get funds in the hands of people within 24 hours that are necessarily. It allows them to immediately help people that are displaced by fire to their residents. It also allows them to get food to families when needed, and they give gift cards to those in need to get coats or shoes or clothes immediately as well. It also talks about assisting the fire chief, Jeff Smith, and the police chief, Andy Short, as needed. So with that, do we have a recommendation from the group?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I move that we decline this application due to overlapping services within the city.
So from time to time, and you'll hear this with some of the applications, the city of Hammond has other funding or organizations or just straight from the city where we provide some of the same services that money is being requested for. So I believe that's what Councilwoman Venez is saying. We do have some programs and services that are very similar. So she's requesting we deny this application. Do we have any other discussion on that?
I would agree with that evaluation, Mr. President.
Agree.
Okay, very good. For now, we will deny that application due to duplication of services. Very good. Next, we have the Challenger Learning Center of Northwest Indiana. Last year, we gave them an approved amount of $15,000. This year, their application is requesting $20,000. Marty Wilgus is the chairman of the board for the Challenger Learning Center, so he'll abstain from any amounts that are being discussed for this group. The purposes of their funding is to assist with program fees for Hammond students to attend the exciting, hands-on, engaging, space-themed, and STEM-rich programs at the Challenger Learning Center of Northwest Indiana, which I assume all of us are familiar with. It's at the Purdue Northwest campus. This funding in particular would provide an opportunity for the fifth grade student population of the school city of Hammond to explore Mars, rendezvous with a comet, or return to the moon, which is the name of their programs. With that, do we have a recommendation for an amount for the Challenger Learning Center of Northwest Indiana?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I recommend 15,000. We all know this is a very important group in the city of Hammond.
We have a recommendation of 15,000. Is there any other
Agree.
discussion?
Agree.
I agree.
Everybody's in agreement. And I believe during our work study session, we did put an asterisk on the side, so if there is additional funding at the end, we could take a look at that again. So we will mark it down for 15,000 right now. Next, we have the Community Center Development Corporation, otherwise known as the Ophelia Steen Center. They did not submit an application last year. This year, they have made a request for $20,000. The purpose of the funding is to receive a generator for their building. So when the power outages happen at the Ophelia Steen, they are not able to service their clients, which I think they service in a number of different capacities. Meaning patients can't be seen, other folks as well, including children that use that facility for daycare as well. And they also need new signage for the building. They currently have a sign out front that is in need of replacement, and they mentioned that it's difficult to even notice the sign the way it's currently constructed. So with that, do we have a recommendation for the Ophelia Steen Center?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I recommend that we give the full 20,000, just because of the services that they do offer there, and it's great to be able to have that generator to keep services going when needed, especially with the daycare being in there and the doctor's facility.
We have a recommendation for $20,000. Any other discussion?
I would agree with that, Mr. President.
Everybody's in agreement, so we will mark them down for $20,000. Again, I remind everybody at home that these are not final amounts, that these are recommended amounts, and they won't be finalized until the last meeting that we have, which I believe we said was March 30th. Next, we have an application for the Daughters of Destiny Enterprises, Inc. Last year, they did submit an application, but were denied. This year, they're requesting an amount of $50,000. Purposes of their funding they are offering an entrepreneurial incubation center to its facility in Hammond, which according to the address on the front here, is a basement suite at the 5549 Soul Avenue address. And it will teach entrepreneurs, those who want to become an entrepreneur, or how to start their own business and how to grow their own business. With that, do we have a recommendation?
Mr. President, I would say that we deny the application only because of duplication of services. Hammond currently offers this program in conjunction with Purdue and also through the city.
So we have a recommendation of denial because very similar programs are offered at the Hammond Development Corporation Group, which is in the downtown Hammond area at the Hub Building. Do we have any other discussion on this?
I would agree.
I would agree.
Okay. We will deny the application due to duplication of services. Next, we have the Four Quarters for Life Community Organization. Last year, we gave them $4,700. This year, they're requesting $15,000. The purpose of the funding is for their Four Quarters for Life football mentor program in Hammond, which will consist of monthly meetup with camp participants during non-school hours to go over skills and drills with the culminating two-day football mentor camp on June 24th of 2023. The Four Quarters for Life football mentor camp is for boys and girls ages 6 to 17. Is designed to increase skills, combine sports and physical activity with healthy lessons, and help youth in the Hammond community learn positive reinforcement and the life lessons through the sport of football. With that, do we have a recommendation for this group?
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend $4,700, which is what we did last year.
So we have a recommendation to match the amount that we did last year of $4,700. Is there any other discussion?
I would agree, Mr. President.
Agreement.
Very good. We're in agreement. We will mark $4,700 for Four Quarters for Life. Okay, next, which I believe will be our final application review for this particular meeting, is the Families and Friends of Northwest Indiana. They did not apply last year, I don't believe. This year, they have an application request amount of $20,000. The purpose of the funding is it says they have added a homeless division center to its facility in Hammond, Indiana, which will help get homeless people off the streets. The funds will be used to purchase food, gift cards, blankets, tents, pillows, and bedding. It will help get apartment rentals for the homeless men and women who want to get off the street. It also talks about helping people get to their doctor's appointments and getting vaccinated to remain safe. And that's, of course, homeless people as well. With that, do we have a recommendation?
Mr. President,
Yes.
something that I didn't notice in our work-study session is that there is a paid staff. Full-time executive director, full-time staff warehouse worker, part-time assistant warehouse worker. I would like to revisit this at our next work-study session.
Okay, we have a recommendation to review a little bit more information on the application before making a recommendation. Is the commission comfortable with that?
Yes.
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 Okay, and in our work-study session, we were going to do a little bit of homework already, so we'll just add this additional questions and information into that. So with that, we will put this on a review status. Okay, for today's meeting, that will conclude what we were able to get through in the work-study session. You will notice that the second meeting, quite a few more applications will be reviewed. For this first meeting, there's a lot of information that we talk about prior to reviewing applications, which is why we only had time for so many organizations. So with that, unless we have any other questions or concerns from the commission, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. I heard it for Councilwoman Vines first. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I heard a second from Andrea Edwards. Roll call vote?
Alexander.
Sorry, Susan, I want to, you looked bored. I want you to do something.
Alexander G. Alexander K.
Yes.
Zolno.
Yes.
Edwards. Farrell.
Yes.
Flores. Rakos.
Yes.
Zaney.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Wilgos.
Yes.
Talon.
Yes, that's 9 approved, 2 absent. We're officially adjourned.
Great.